co-founding one of the world's first debit cards and money apps for children, scaling GoHenry into a global household name. She led one of CrowdCube's largest fundraising campaigns ever and pioneered real financial education in schools. Please welcome the trailblazing female leader in fintech, Louise Hill!
Yes!
Oh my goodness, that was quite a build-up, wasn't it? Scott just said to me, we've gone X Factor style-y. So yeah, thank you for that.
I'm going to have. It did feel a bit X Factor.
It did, didn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. But you are a sort of an entrepreneurial pop star in your own right. Really. Can I just say personally before you start, I just want to say thank you. I've got 2 daughters myself. Massively appreciate what you're doing for the world. Let's hear it for Louise Hill, everybody. Louise.
Thank you. Now, I have got 2 slides, which I'm hoping one of them will appear here. No. Okay, we will carry on regardless. They were not particularly important. So, first of all, hello everybody. Thank you for being here today. For those of you who don't know me after that incredible introduction, my name's Louise Hill. I'm the founder of GoHenry, the money app teaching kids to earn, save, spend, and invest. And I'm going to start this session, the lights are very bright, so I don't know how well I'm going to be able to see this, but with an open question. Would you drop your kids in the deep end of a swimming pool and just expect them to swim? Hands up if the answer is yes. There's always one or two. There's always one or two. So unsurprisingly, the majority of you kept your hands down and said no. Those 2 gentlemen I saw put their hands up. Maybe Amazon can do a same-day delivery of some inflatable armbands. We'll get them to you. So the reason I ask that is swimming, like money management, is a vital life skill and something that needs to be taught. Learnt young, usually taught with some aids, swimming rings, armbands, etc. And really important to ensure that the next generation grow up with those life skills. In the case of money, that they don't sink amongst access to fast credit and all those other temptations that are out there persuading us to buy things these days. That mission is fundamentally what was behind starting GoHenry. And unbelievably, that was back in 2012. Or I say unbelievably, because I can't believe it's been quite that long. And it's something that we've been grounded in ever since. Mission was what started it. Even more important now as society becomes more and more cashless. And we see the behaviors of GoHenry kids. The amount of cash that they actually use has decreased since year 1 in 2012, all the way down to just 6% of money that flows through GoHenry ever gets taken out at an ATM these days. So, we do have the slides. So I'm going to throw you back in time to black and white photos and tell you a little bit about how I ended up founding GoHenry. Before I get into the why a mission-led business, how do you scale it? This was my first business. So that shop, my dad made woodwork out of hardboard and wood. And that's me and my little brother on Christmas Day. I was 7, he was 5. And we spent probably the next 6 months flogging the little Kellogg's variety packs to anybody who would walk into the house with a little cash register. I'd just see the back of it on the shelf there. And then, obviously, once somebody had bought the Kellogg's variety pack, we would take it back off them, put it back on the shelf. Very good business model. I would recommend it. Seriously, though, looking back, I don't think GoHenry would have existed if I hadn't built up a solid set of skills in my previous career. Practical skills, building teams, establishing supply chains, creating processes, obviously leadership, team building, problem solving, negotiation, project management, all those things that any business founder, business person needs to run a business. On the flip side, as I went into launching GoHenry, I didn't know anything about banking or finance. That was not my background. But I didn't let that stop me. So while I think it's important to have transferable skills when you start a business, probably the most important ones, I would say, are to learn as you go and never be frightened of asking questions and keep asking questions until you've found the answer that makes sense to you. So before GoHenry, I actually studied languages. I studied languages at A-levels, went to the University of Westminster, which at that time was called the Polytechnic of Central London, and did specialised translation and interpreting. That's a bizarre degree for you. I thought I wanted to be an interpreter, managed to get a job as an interpreter, and hated it, absolutely hated it. 3 months later, phoned my parents and said, I'm coming home. Got a placement with the House of Fraser as a retail fast-track graduate trainee, and got sent to Howells of Cardiff, spent 18 months learning retail, and then managed to get a job with an American management consultancy who were looking to launch in Europe, and had the opportunity to spend the next 6 years traveling around Europe, using my languages a little bit, but also working in all sorts of different businesses. I worked in a bottle factory, I worked in a meat processing plant in Spain, I worked in a train carriage building company in what used to be East Germany. It had recently become unified Germany. In NatWest Bank, all sorts of different companies, but learning all the time the transferable skills that apply to every single business, looking for what the key levers are in the business, looking for how to build teams, how to bring people along with you, and how to lead. The last big project I did was launching Next Directory online. So Next Directory itself had been launched in 1988, so long ago. And about 5 years after that, they launched online, just as the internet was really becoming powerful enough for us to be able to shop online in a meaningful way and not have to wait for every page to load. And that led me to the next 20 years of my career. So I spent 20 years in e-com, always in operations, running the contact centres, in the early days, the data entry centres, the pick, pack and dispatch warehouses. And during that 20 years, I also launched my first proper business, not the shop, when it was called Manners. It was an e-com business, and where everybody else was doing very modern, loft-living, Scandinavian-style homewares, we went for the traditional English country-style furniture and homewares, because that, to me, was the gap in the market. So I think I've always had an eye for those gaps in the market. Manners with traditional homewares. About 5 years after that, I don't know those of you who will remember Changing Rooms and Grand Force, the TV programs. Well, we worked with my ex-business partner and myself, we worked with Endemol, the Dutch production company that ran both of those, and created an entity called Get the Look. So that at the end of Changing Rooms, if Laurence Llewelyn-Bowen had done a Gothic bedroom and you loved it, Get the Look allowed you to buy the paint that was on the walls, buy the throw that you'd seen them drape across the sofa, buy the little bookcase, buy all of the accessories. We didn't launch that. That's another story for another day. We didn't launch that because the timing wasn't quite right. But it sort of I'm trying to paint a picture to you of sort of successive, trying to fill gaps in the market. So when 2010 came along, not 2012 when we launched, my kids were about this high. And my brother had bought them both an iPod for their Christmas present. You remember the tiny little ones? And I had done something very foolish. I had given them the login to my iTunes account, which had my credit card attached to it, and they were having a great time. Any of you are parents in the room, you can imagine it well. So they were spending a small fortune, not crazy money, not as much as some of my friends' kids were spending, but they were spending a lot of money on iTunes. And I, as a parent, was trying to figure out, how do I make them understand this is money, that it has to come from somewhere, me, and that they had to think carefully about when they were spending it. So I started chatting with other parents about it and found almost every parent had a story, whether it was buying hair scrunchies and tail bows for somebody's little pony on an online game, and I have told this story a lot, one of my good friends once looked out of her living room window to see a flatbed truck with the wreck of an old car driving up, and sort of ran out to say, no, your sat-nav's taken you to the wrong place, not me. And the crane lifted it off the back of the truck and put it on her driveway because her 11-year-old son had spent £600 on what he thought was a model car. I'm actually very proud of that friend. She sold it about 4 months later for £650. So hats off to her. But basically, we all had the same problem. And that was where the concept for GoHenry came about. Children were already transacting online, using online platforms, but there was nothing out there that let a parent allow their child to do that safely, with parameters around it, with limits. And that was when we took the plunge and decided to do something about it. So with two dads who had kids at the same school as me, we set about trying to build GoHenry. And when we did that, I guess we didn't think about it very much at the time, but we pioneered a new category, not just in digital banking, in that it was the first digital bank for kids, but also in financial education in terms of how we built and baked education into it from the ground up from day one. And that's something, looking back, I'm really proud of. So fast forward 14 years, and over 2.3 million children now have learnt money skills with GoHenry. I'm going to try and change to the next slide. Yes. Right, that's it. No more slides. So, having started GoHenry, I'm going to talk a little bit about the funding journey. When we launched, I was absolutely determined that we would take in enough funds at that pre-seed funding stage to get far enough. And the reason I was very determined about that was the first business that I spoke to you about, Manners, not even thought about the funding. We got enough money to launch the business and then were so focused on growing it and building it. It was only when we sort of realized that it was quite successful and we wanted to scale it, suddenly realized that we didn't have the funds to scale it, nor did we even have sufficient funds for one of us to be able to step away from the business and go and find funding, because those of you in the room who have gone through that journey will know just how much effort and time it takes. If one of us had stepped away to do that, Manners would have fallen over, and we ended up having to sell it. So I thought, GoHenry, we're going to fix this with GoHenry, we'll take in enough funding. And we secured angel investors. I went to my brother, who worked in the city at the time, and said, introduce me to all your rich friends. And he did introduce me to a few interesting people, and we found some funding like that. But I did a lot of pitches to a lot of angel investing events and raised the rest of the money like that. Took us 18 months to find £670,000 to launch the business, and then another 9 months to bring GoHenry to life, the first iteration, and we launched in November 2012 in the UK. And like any other business founder, we worked nights, we worked weekends, we worked holidays, we absolutely grafted. And that was because we were passionate that what we were doing could make a difference to kids' lives. In those days, we were thinking across the UK. Our biggest struggle, I guess, was we were first in market. We were the first company ever to launch a pocket money app and card for young people. And when you do that, you're having to talk to audiences and explain not just what you are, but why they need you. And that's quite complex to get across in that nanosecond of somebody's attention that you have. So we launched, we slogged away, we did not see the legendary hockey stick like that. I've often said our hockey stick was laid on its back because it was slow and steady whilst we tried all sorts of different routes to market. We tried going through schools, we tried being in lots of places where people were with their kids. None of those particularly worked. And then digital marketing started to give us traction and we started to grow. And the next thing we did was we needed more funds. So I'd thought, right, well, we'll go to venture capital funds. I'd sort of learned a little bit about them. That would be the next sensible step. But the team from Crowdcube approached me and said, your business is almost perfect for crowdfunding. Will you come and try crowdfunding? We were, at that point in time, we had about 50,000 paying customers. The point they made was, as a mission-led business, we had a very easily understandable call to action, I suppose, for everyday investors. We had our customer base we could talk to and see if they were interested in investing, and we had a call out to the nation to teach kids about money. So we went for crowdfunding. The intention at the time, certainly my intention at the time, was, well, let's give this a go, see if it works. And then we will go to VC, obviously, to find the rest of the money. We were looking for about 4 million the first time we crowdfunded. What happened was unbelievable. We became the first company in the world to reach what was then the legal limit for pure equity crowdfunding, which was, at the time, 5 million euros. And we had to turn off the crowdfunding. We went for crowdfunding again 2 years later, raised another 6.5 million, and in total raised 15 million from crowdfunding. I think really what that did for us, it showed us that there was a demand for our product. It showed us that what we were trying to do appealed not just to investors looking to make a return on their money, but actually to the general public. And something I'd never even thought about as we went into it, it acted as a huge motivator for the teams at GoHenry. There were probably about 40 of us in the business at the time, and the whole team got incredibly motivated by the energy and the passion and the excitement that the crowdfunding generated. And the feedback that we got about the mission and why what we were doing was important. So it gave us extra confidence to carry on. Later on, we went on more traditional routes not for crowdfunding, to raise funding. We raised a very late stage Series A of $40 million, and then another $55 million from, the 40 million was led by an American firm, American fund. The 55 million was led by an Italian pay tech company. So in total, we've raised, before we merged with Acorns, who are an American fintech, 3 years ago, we raised a total of $123 million. So some female-founded businesses can raise funding. Thank you. So in terms of mission and our team, the very first hire that I ever made in a coffee shop in Lymington, where I live, is a lady called Ruth Vero. And we hired her notionally as head of member services. We refer to our customer services as member services. She's still with us today. She is now Global Vice President of Customer Support and Operations. What a title. Doesn't fit on any name badges. But she looks after 3 outsourced contact centres, one in Trinidad, one in Sri Lanka, one in India. She looks after our biggest contact centre in Farnborough, operations, fin crime, and we often joke about Ruth that if you cut her in half, she would bleed GoHenry. Our colour is red. But she is a fantastic example of how sticking to our mission and sticking to our purpose, she has grown with the company and has gone from managing a team of 3 people. She has, if I include the remote contact centres, she's got about 700 people in her team. So she really has grown with us. And it is that company culture that I'm really proud of. It's something I've worked very, very hard at. We've worked very hard at as a business, maintaining that as we scaled. I'm looking at the clock here and thinking I'm going to run out of time, so I will keep talking. One of the things I realised late, I have to say, is when you build your own company, you actually have the privilege of being able to shape it the way you want it to be. So I was able to make sure that female leaders were at least 50% of the leaders in GoHenry, that we had flexible working practices that meant anybody, not just women, but anybody who was a carer could take the time off that they need. We do things like, if you are doing the school run, you put it in your calendar as the school run. If you want to go for a dog walk in the morning, if you don't have kids, or even if you do, you put that in your calendar, and we all try and work around that. First thing on a Monday morning, I go to a yoga lesson. That's in my calendar. It doesn't just say busy. Everybody can see that. Obviously, if the ship is sinking, we will ask those people to move that around. But that allowing people to work the way that they work best has been really, really important. I think to keeping people with us, retaining strong individuals in the company, but also channeling what we're trying to do. So I'm going to skip launching in the US in 2018, buying a company in France in 2022 and launching with them in Spain and Italy, because otherwise I'm going to talk for too long. And I'm going to fast forward to April 2023, when we finally signed and closed a deal with Acorns, who are a US fintech. And I think that deal in particular, that was where the founding principles of GoHenry really stood us in good stead. We've always had our mission at the core, and our mission is to make every kid smart with money. It's guided us through a lot of interesting conversations over the years. It is remarkable how often when, as a business, we were trying to decide, do we do A or do we do B? Do we offer X to the customer or Y to the customer? When you lock back to that mission, it gives you the answer. And that has been a fundamental principle the whole way through, making sure that we were doing that. So, again, with the Acorns merger, their mission is to look after the financial best interests of the up-and-coming. They're an American fintech. It's democratized investing, roundups, cash forward into your investment pot, enabling the everyday American to invest. They put education front and center the same way we do, and they're all about leveling up, as we are. So what they did mapped incredibly well with our mission. And we came together 3 years ago, and that's been an incredible journey, merging our GoHenry US operations into theirs, and then watching that just take off and phenomenal growth in the US. So I'm going to end by going back to our mission. It's a word I've used a lot today. It's something I'm very proud of. It's something that has run through the business since day one. In 14 years, we've gone from 3 of us starting the business to just over 500 people. The secret, somebody asked me that the other day, and I thought, well, I'm going to use that talking to you today. The secret to that scale, never letting that mission become an add-on, always keeping it front and centre. It's why 5 years ago we started lobbying government to make financial education mandatory in schools in the UK, a campaign that ended up successful in November last year when the government announced that that will happen in September 2028. all the way from primary school upwards. And that all by itself will have the incredible impact of generations starting to grow up empowered and confident with money, and the difference that that makes to their future lives. So we didn't scale by chasing trends. We scaled by tackling a real-world problem for parents and for kids. And staying true to our mission hasn't just made us a pioneer, as I said right at the beginning in the category that we started, but it has made us it's very grandiose, a global force for good. Purpose doesn't slow down growth. Don't ever let anybody tell you a purpose-driven business is a slow-growing business. Purpose gives you the fuel for growth. Thank you. I'm checking the clock. I've got 2 minutes left.
Brilliant. You had got 2 minutes. That's a brilliant opening speech. Thank you, Louise.
Thank you.
Absolutely world-class. Louise Hill, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Come and, you've got a head mic, so come just for 1 minute, because then firstly,
yes,
will you stay and join our first panel?
Yes,
on
absolutely.
pitching?
I've been told I've got to sit on the end seat.
That's very gosh. I like the idea of entrepreneurs following rules. Okay.
Yeah, doesn't
First of all,
happen
could I
often.
just say, you seem like a lovely person to work for as well. Thank you for not making your employees hide their lives. It's really good.
I really meant that point. It only dawned on me a couple of years ago that actually you do have the privilege of shaping the business the way you would like to work and the way you think is important.
We're going to get into more questions on our panel. Some entrepreneurs start the business, they go up through certain gears, but then there comes a time when the baton gets handed over. You kept running that business all the way through to that momentous exit to Acorns.
Yeah.
Anything that you did along the way that enabled you to keep being the chief executive is like, I'm pleased I did that, because otherwise I might have had to pass on.
Well, I wasn't the chief exec the whole way through. I started out as chief operating officer. I think my background in operations meant that was my sweet spot.
Got it.
And actually, it was only 3.5 years ago I took over as CEO.
Interesting direction in that sense, right?
Yes. Hard fought.
Some of our guests will be wondering, tuned in, over 100 million raised. What were you spending the money on, Louise?
I'm going to say it's B2C, it's cash hungry. So we're a subscription business, so you need to bring in the customers, but I'm teaching people here to suck eggs, I don't mean that, but it takes a while for those customers to start to break even and start paying back. So when we wanted to grow fast, it was cash hungry.
Yeah, now we are going to talk about pitching in particular, so that will be the sort of specialist subject of the panel. But let's go back to day one of starting out on the GoHenry journey. Piece of advice to your former self, just as you were starting off on the journey.
Jump in with both feet and do it. I mean, clearly I did anyway, but it took a lot of hard thought. My kids were 7 and 9. I was divorced. I had always been the breadwinner, so I needed to keep that mortgage payment serviced and the roof over my head, and I was really nervous about it. Yeah.
Well, it's been an extraordinary journey, which sort of continues. I mean, other than GoHenry, I mean, other things on the horizon. I mean, it can be all-consuming building a company, but give us a sense of where Louise Hill goes.
Where I'm going now. So 4 months ago, I handed over the CEO role. I've been dancing a little jig ever since, and handed over all the operating responsibilities to the exec team. We haven't actually replaced my role specifically. We've got a global president and 3 country managers, so a US country manager, Europe and UK. And I've moved to, I'm still the face of GoHenry, still doing the lobbying and the advocacy with government, now working with the Department for Education.
Good.
They've asked us to get involved in helping to build the financial education curriculum, which we're really excited about. I'm going down to 3 days a week at the end of this month for GoHenry. One of my friends said, "Are you starting to retire?" The answer is absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
So it's I'm exploring my options for the other 2
Amazing.
days
Well,
a week.
stick around for more conversations at Elite Business Live.
Yeah.
Couldn't think of a better kick-off to our first day. Louise Hill, thank you very much. Please,
Thank you.
join us.